She's a former British Olympic gymnast and she's now preparing for a major challenge. Not on the gymnastics floor, but up in the Pyrenees for the Royal British Legion. Suzanne Dando is retracing one of the hardest escape routes of the Second World War, from Saint-Girons in France to Estéry in Spain. It was used by around 33,000 civilians and 6,000 Allied servicemen to flee the Nazi occupation of France. When I spoke to her earlier, Suzanne told me she was inspired by a woman who was instrumental in helping people escape.
I was totally inspired by Nancy Wake after I read her book, and that was the main reason, because I had already discussed with a friend about raising money for the armed forces, and we just linked the two together, and it was a unique idea, emulating her particular escape line walk, and that's what started it all, really.
Just tell me a little bit more about Nancy Wake, who she is and what she did exactly.
Nancy's our most highly decorated female from the Second World War. She fought with the resistance. Very much in the early days. She was all part of the very early days of the resistance from Marseille, and condense it all very quickly for you. But in 1943 she was so effective, the Gestapo nicknamed the White Mouse. She was literally wanted. There was a price of 50,000 francs on her head for her capture. She had to actually escape over the Pyrenees in the same way she'd helped so many other servicemen and evadees escape across themselves. So on her sixth attempt, she finally made it over the Pyrenees into the safety of Spain. She then made it back to Britain. She trained as an SOE agent back here in England, and she was parachuted back in behind enemy lines in 1944, and she fought the rest of the war with about 7 other resistance fighters until France was liberated in 1945.
So you're going to do this well-trodden route over 4 days?
It will take us 4 days. It will cover 80 kilometres, that's about 50 miles, and it's the Chemin de Liberté, which is also known as the Freedom Trail.
You're a very experienced adventurer, and you undertake all kinds of physical activities. And we know what your background is. But
always up for a challenge.
Yeah, but what worries you the most about this one?
I think the weather conditions is going to be the worst thing that we will probably face, because on this particular route, we reach heights of about 8,500 feet, probably twice in one day on our 3rd day, and we are possibly going to face adverse weather conditions. It's been known that the snows come in July, August sometimes, which is why the routes get closed at the end of September, because it's just impassable after that. So the weather will be a huge factor to overcome. The actual trail itself, it's hard. This is by no means a walk in the park. It's a real hard slog. So, we're going to have to rough it a bit.
And Suzanne, you really can't give up though, can you? Because you're in good company with people from the armed forces. No softness here.
There's no softness, and I've got a great team of girls. We are obviously raising money for all the men and women of the armed forces, but we're also honouring and remembering women in conflict from the past and today. And I have on board a Lieutenant Commander, Penny Clark, from the Royal Navy, who just happens to be an Olympic yachtswoman as well, 10th in Beijing. She's joining the team. I have Moira Cameron, who was 22 years in the Army. She's now the first ever female beefeater at the Tower of London. And I also have Jo Salter, who was the first ever female fighter pilot in the RAF. So I've got a good team across the board of armed forces. I have Sally Kettle, who's a motivational speaker and just happens to have rowed the Atlantic twice. And then I just did, gymnastics. So
there's no giving up then?
There is absolutely no giving up. We just really hope to raise as much money as we can for all our troops and continue. There's a lot of challenges in the pipeline, so maybe we'll be back.
Suzanne Dando, I don't need to say good luck. I know you're going to do it. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much.